Picture this. It was 2003, and three young men had just arrived from rural Hunan, China. Thanks to their stellar grades, every single one of them made it into grad school. Their paths finally crossed at Xiangtan University, right there in Hunan province. Before this, their lives couldn't have been more different. But that one encounter dragged them into a chilling true crime mystery, plunging them into an absolute nightmare. Despite all their grand dreams and college ambitions, when they first stepped onto campus, they never could have imagined that this simple meeting would trigger a complete and utter tragedy. Let's unpack the heartbreaking wrongful murder conviction at Xiangtan University. This mystery revolves around four key players. The victim, Zhou Yuheng, was born in 1979 over in Hengshan County, Hunan Province, right when the incident happened. He was a second-year grad student, class of 2002, studying mechanical engineering at Xiangtan University. Back home, Zhou Yuheng was practically a local celebrity. As the village's very first grad student, and honestly the sharpest kid around, he was the absolute pride and joy of the Zhou family. Zhou Yuheng's grandfather used to teach. His dad was an elementary school teacher too. His aunts and uncles all had college degrees. You could definitely say his family was this highly respected, educated household known for miles. When Zhou Yuheng was just a little boy, he barely touched any farm chores. His folks wanted him to pour absolutely every ounce of energy into his schoolwork, and he didn't let them down. During his time at Xiangtan University, he was basically a superstar around the engineering building. His grades were off the charts, and he served as the party branch secretary. That is a massive leadership role within the school's Communist Party. It proved he had serious leadership skills and political drive, usually a huge stepping stone for a brilliant career. He even scored a direct track to his doctorate, completely skipping his master's degree. On top of that, the university promised him a teaching job right after graduation. Zhou Yuheng's future was looking incredibly bright, promising a life of absolute limitless potential. Back in college, he had brought a girl back home. The whole village was whispering that she was actually his fiancée. Her name was Li Xia, and she is the main female figure in this homicide case. Li Xia was born in 1980 in Zixing City, Hunan Province. She did her undergrad at Xiangtan University, just 1 year behind Zhou Yuheng. Right from her freshman year, Li Xia got to know her senior, Zhou Yuheng. By her sophomore year, the two of them officially started dating. And the year the fatal crime happened, Li Xia was directly admitted into the grad program at Xiangtan University's Mechanical Engineering Department. In September of 2003, when the new grad students arrived, Li Xia met Yan Yi and a new guy named Zeng Aiyun. He is the final key player in this story. Zeng Aiyun came from a deeply remote, rural part of Xiaodong County, Hunan Province. When he was just 2, his mother lost her ability to work after suffering from severe bone necrosis. At 5, his father suddenly died from a massive heart attack. Zeng Aiyun's family became one of the absolute poorest households in the village. Thanks to his 3 uncles, his sick mother somehow pushed through and managed to raise Zeng Aiyun and his siblings. A few years later, his second older brother tragically died in a horrific accident at just 17, falling from a construction site. From age 12, Zeng Aiyun basically became the main breadwinner of the house. Growing up without the warmth or love of a father, Zeng Aiyun grew up incredibly timid and deeply introverted. If he saw people arguing or fighting, he would always just quietly slip away. But even in those brutal conditions, Zeng Aiyun worked incredibly hard, earning himself a spot at Xiangtan University. Right after getting his bachelor's degree, he started working at the Hengyang Railway Machinery Plant. and for 2 straight years, he was actually named an outstanding employee. He even got promoted to workshop supervisor. In 2003, Zeng Aiyun decided to head back to his alma mater to pursue his graduate studies. All his hard work finally sparked a real ray of hope for his poverty-stricken family. But tragically, that hope wouldn't last. Shortly after his grad school journey began, that hope just vanished into thin air. There's one more key player in all this. His name is Chen Huazhang. Born in 1978 in Din Di village, over in Thuong Duc City, he was a former classmate of Tang Ngai Van back in undergrad. But after getting his degree, Chen Huazhang headed straight into a master's program. When everything went down, Chen Huazhang was already in his 3rd year of grad school. See, Chen Huazhang and Zhou Yuheng were studying mechanical design together. They even shared the exact same academic advisor. Meanwhile, Tang Ngai Van and Li Ha were both focused on chemical engineering and machinery. Both were part of the 2003 graduate class. October 8, 2003, was the day these new grad students finally enrolled and met their advisors. Later that night, the first-year students hit the town for a dinner party. And it was right there, at this exact get-together, that Li Ha and Tang Ngai Van crossed paths. They hit it off immediately. Since Tang Ngai Van already had a couple years of real job experience, he seemed way more mature and grounded than the rest. Naturally, he stood out at dinner and totally caught her eye. Once the party ended, Li Ha and Tang Ngai Van were constantly texting and calling each other. Right around then, Li Ha was going through a serious rough patch with Zhou Yuheng, her boyfriend of 3 years. But they hadn't officially pulled the plug just yet. Before any of this happened, Tang Ngai Van had never actually been in a real relationship. He could easily tell Li Ha was into him, and honestly, he wanted to see where it could lead, and maybe take the next step. The two were growing closer with every passing day. It took until October 24th for Tang Ngai Van to finally realize Li Ha was already taken. Almost at the exact same moment, Zhou Yuheng discovered the secret romance brewing between Li Ha and Tang Ngai Van. On the afternoon of October 26th, Zhou Yuheng initiated a breakup, sending her a truly crushing text message. He wrote, "As long as you are okay, I will be okay. Even if I fall apart, you have to be okay. Because then, I will eventually be okay too." When that text came through, Li Ha was actually right there with Tang Ngai Van. She completely broke down crying. Tang Ngai Van immediately asked her what was wrong. Li Ha confessed that she and Zhou Yuheng were officially over the very next day, October 27th. Despite being the one who ended it, Zhou Yuheng just could not let it go. That evening, around 6:33, Zhou Yuheng called Li Ha, claiming he heard some vicious rumors, things like Tang Ngai Van having a shady past and even working as an escort. Zhou Yuheng drew a hard line. If Tang Ngai Van was actually as toxic as people claimed, he absolutely refused to let Li Ha go. But what Zhou Yuheng did not realize was that during this entire phone call, Tang Ngai Van was sitting right next to her. Hearing his own name dragged through the mud, Tang Ngai Van was instantly furious. He demanded they call Zhou Yuheng over on the spot to clear the air. By 7:28 that night, Tang Ngai Van dialed Zhou Yuheng directly. He said point blank that his lifestyle was perfectly normal, pleading with him to ignore those ridiculous rumors. Over the phone, Zhou Yuheng spilled his guts. He confessed that losing Li Ha was completely tearing him apart. The guy was on the verge of a total emotional breakdown. That is when Tang Ngai Van replied, "If you truly want to treat Li Ha right, I will literally bring her over right now so you two can patch things up. I will step away." So, the three of them agreed to meet at the fountain right outside the Xiangtan University library. Much later, the police actually asked Zeng Aiyun why he was so quick to just throw in the towel and step aside. Zeng Aiyun explained that he and Li Ha had only known each other for 2 weeks. Their connection just wasn't that deep yet. He refused to be labeled as the guy who stole someone's girlfriend. Plus, he genuinely wanted to avoid dragging himself into pointless relationship drama. For absolutely no reason. Now, even though both guys had serious feelings for Li Ha, they were both handling it like grown adults. It never once turned into a physical brawl or a bitter rivalry. It certainly didn't look like a messy love triangle doomed to end in a crime of passion. Soon after, Chen Huazhang arrived, physically supporting Zhou Yuheng, who was practically collapsing from emotional exhaustion right at the meeting spot. Zeng Aiyun saw how miserable Zhou Yuheng looked and figured the guy was just totally heartbroken. So, he grabbed Li Ha's hand in his left, Zhou Yuheng's hand in his right, and physically pushed their hands together, begging them to just make peace. Throughout the entire conversation, the three of them talked everything out completely calmly. No screaming matches, no vicious arguments, zero fighting. But right then, Chen Huazhang stood nearby, repeating the same thing over and over. "Stop talking. That's enough for today. Not another word." While he said this, he helped guide Zhou Yuheng back toward the student dorms. Li Ha could tell Zhou Yuheng was in really bad shape. She stepped up, offering to walk him back to his room. But Chen Huazhang shot that down. "I can take him back. You can't go into the boys' dorm anyway." Li Ha just watched their backs as the short, scrawny Chen Huazhang, barely 1.60 meters, propped up Zhou Yuheng and led him away. She never could have guessed that this totally ordinary classmate was about to permanently alter the fate of everyone involved. Once Chen Huazhang got the emotionally wrecked Zhou Yuheng back to his campus dorm, Li Ha went searching for Zeng Aiyun. Now, even though Zeng Aiyun had actually pushed her to get back with Zhou Yuheng, Li Ha worried he was just talking out of anger. She really needed to clear the air with him. From then on, between roughly 8 p.m. and just past 11 o'clock that night, Li Ha and Zeng Aiyun never left each other's sight. At one point, Zeng Aiyun snapped at her, "Just go home, Li Ha. Stop worrying about the guy." But his attitude just terrified Li Ha. She was scared Zeng Aiyun might do something reckless, so she flat out refused to leave him. The pair wandered around the college campus for over 3 hours. They even stopped for milk, tea, popcorn, and some snacks. Over those 3 hours, they both picked up phone calls from a few different people. At 10:17 p.m., a female classmate called Zeng Aiyun. She needed help filling out the address on her student ID card. A few minutes later, at 10:21 p.m., Li Ha took a call from her younger sister. She was trying to talk Li Ha out of dumping Zhou Yuheng. Right after that, Li Ha's phone rang again. It was her dad, and he also wanted to discuss the whole drama with Zhou Yuheng. That conversation dragged on for over 30 minutes. By then, it was pushing 11:30 p.m. Zeng Aiyun and Li Ha finally headed back to their dorms. But earlier, right around 11:23, both of their cell phones had chimed at the exact same moment. A text message from Zhou Yuheng. It just read, "I'm backing out. I wish you both happiness." The Xiangtan University dorms locked their main doors right at 11 p.m. every single night. So Li Ha and Zeng Aiyun actually had to hop the wall to get inside. Once Zeng Aiyun sneaked into the boys' dorm, he spotted Chen Huazhang sitting at his desk, messing with his phone. Meanwhile, back at the girls' dorm, Li Ha couldn't shake the text from Zhou Yuheng. Her gut was screaming that something was very wrong. So she kept dialing his number. The line just rang and rang, no answer. Totally frantic, Li Ha called Tang Nai Van, begging him to go check Chao Dukang's room. She had to know he was safe. Tang Nai Van rushed right over to the dorm, only to find his roommates awake. They just got a text from him too, saying he wasn't coming back to sleep there tonight. He claimed he felt depressed and wanted to find a friend from his hometown to talk with. Hearing that did not calm Li Ha down. She told Tang Nai Van they had to go look for him together. Around 2 a.m. on October 28th, Tang Nai Van and Li Ha neared the university engineering building and noticed a massive crowd gathering outside. Li Ha tried to shove her way inside to find Chao Yuheng, but a campus security guard blocked her path. The guard looked right at her. "Is the guy you're looking for wearing a light blue jacket?" "Yes, that's him," Li Ha yelled back. But the guard's next words hit Li Ha and Tang Nai Van like a freight train. He told them that at roughly 11:40 that night, Chao Yuheng was discovered dead on the grass just outside the engineering building. Tang Nai Van dropped straight to his knees, gripping his head in sheer panic. His first thought was absolute terror. "Oh God, it's over." He figured Chao Yuheng did the unthinkable over a broken heart. But that extreme reaction from Tang Nai Van instantly put the campus guard on high alert. Next thing they knew, Tang Nai Van and Li Ha were hauled into the police station. Under questioning, Li Ha swore to the detectives that she and Tang Nai Van had stayed together all night. She insisted they didn't head back to the dorms until 11:30. They had zero connection to the death of Chao Yuheng. When asked about collapsing in the grass, Tang Nai Van explained he was just crushing under the guilt. He honestly felt like he personally caused this horrific tragedy, sparking this messy love triangle. People thought it drove Chao Yuheng to take his own life. He figured after everything that went down, there was just no way he could stay at that school. That explains his intense reaction. Early on, investigators didn't second-guess their stories at all. That is, until they brought in Chen Huazhang. He was the guy who also met Chao Yuheng that night. The second he walked into the police station, Chen Huazhang blurted out that the actual killer was Tang Nai Van. He swore he watched with his very own eyes as Tang Nai Van used a brown rope to strangle Chao Yuheng to death, right inside lab room 308. The murder happened around 10:15 p.m. on October 27th. Chen Huazhang claimed that night, shortly after. He walked Chao Yuheng back to his dorm room. He just got totally bored. So he invited Chao Yuheng back over to Lab 308 to play some music. But one detail really stood out. Chen Huazhang had practically carried Chao Yuheng around that entire evening. Was it really just a bad heartbreak that left Chao Yuheng so weak he couldn't even stand on his own? Early in the morning, on October 28th, detectives searched the actual crime scene, lab room 308, following Chen Huazhang's lead. Officers recovered a brown rope, roughly 5.68 meters long, shoved right inside Chen Huazhang's desk drawer. The rope's thickness perfectly matched the strangulation marks left on Chao Yuheng's neck, but on the cord itself, they failed to find a single fingerprint from anybody. Also stashed inside Chen Huazhang's drawer, police found Chao Yuheng's phone, along with a disposable paper cup. Inside that cup sat a crumpled tissue, absolutely covered in Chen Huazhang's fingerprints. Both inside the cup and on the tissue, forensics detected traces of sedatives. Sometime in early October, the official autopsy report for Chen Huazhang was released. It estimated the exact time of death at around 10:30 p.m. on October 27th. The medical examiner also discovered traces of sedatives inside Chao Yuheng's stomach. These perfectly matched the exact same drugs found in that paper cup from Chen Huazhang's drawer. This proved it wasn't some messy, spur-of-the-moment crime fueled by sudden anger. This was a cold, calculated, premeditated murder. As the criminal investigation continued, detectives found out that about a week or two before the incident, Chen Huazhang visited the hospital 6 different times. To stock up on sedatives, he hoarded a massive total of 48 pills. Suddenly, every single piece of forensic evidence pointed straight to Chen Huazhang. Chen Huazhang's story kept shifting over and over again. In his final police confession, he laid it out exactly like this. He claimed Zeng Aiyun and Zhou Yuheng were romantic rivals, and the bad blood between the two ran deep. Zeng Aiyun told him earlier that he really wanted to teach Zhou Yuheng a serious lesson, and since Chen Huazhang and Zeng Aiyun were college classmates and pretty good friends, he wanted to help his buddy out. So, he visited the hospital to get the sleeping pills. On the evening of October 27th, right around 6:30 p.m., Chen Huazhang was inside Lab 308. There, he crushed those pills and dissolved them into a paper cup of tea, meant for Zhou Yuheng. Almost immediately, Zhou Yuheng grew incredibly dizzy and exhausted, which is exactly why Chen Huazhang had to practically drag a stumbling Zhou Yuheng along to meet up with Zeng Aiyun and Li Ha. Afterwards, Chen Huazhang initially took Zhou Yuheng back to the dorms, but then, right after 9 p.m., he used the excuse of playing some music to lure Zhou Yuheng right back to Lab 308. He swore that absolutely all of this was completely orchestrated by Zeng Aiyun. Sometime between 10 and 10:15 p.m., Zeng Aiyun finally showed up at Lab 308. At that point, Chen Huazhang claimed he was just chilling at his desk reading a book. About 5 minutes later, after hearing some weird noises, Chen Huazhang got up to check it out. That is when he claimed he saw Zhou Yuheng slumped over on the floor, while Zeng Aiyun used a thick brown rope to violently strangle Zhou Yuheng. Chen Huazhang said that watching the whole thing unfold, he was so paralyzed by fear he couldn't move. Right after that, Zeng Aiyun ordered Chen Huazhang to help him drag Zhou Yuheng's lifeless body into the grassy patch behind the campus science building. Investigators figured that since Chen Huazhang and Zeng Aiyun were old college classmates and genuinely close friends, he really didn't have a clear motive to falsely frame Zeng Aiyun. Plus, Zeng Aiyun and Zhou Yuheng truly were bitter romantic rivals. So, Chen Huazhang's statement was considered incredibly solid. Over her first 2 days of police questioning, Li Ha provided 5 separate statements. She held firm that on the night of the killing, from 8 to 11:30 p.m. on October 27th, she and Zeng Aiyun were together. She stayed right by his side. The two never separated for a single second. This meant Zeng Aiyun had absolutely zero window to commit the murder. Afterward, Xiangtan City Police locked Li Ha up, accusing her of perjury. They pressured her, telling her, "You are not a witness anymore. You are a criminal suspect. If you refuse to admit that on the night of the homicide, Zeng Aiyun left around 10 p.m., left you alone for a while, then you will be looking at a lot worse than just jail time." Despite the threats, Li Ha swore up and down she was with Zeng Aiyun the whole night. Pushing back like this got Li Ha officially slapped with charges for giving false testimony. Broken down, she finally changed her tune, claiming that Zeng Aiyun actually did leave her alone that night for about 20 minutes. Investigators figured he used that exact 20-minute window to brutally slaughter Zhou Yuheng. Zeng Aiyun's own questioning was even more brutal. Detectives forced him down into the splits, making him hold his torso perfectly straight for agonizingly long stretches. They threatened to beat him if he flinched. Pretty soon, Zeng Aiyun felt an absolutely unbearable, blinding pain shooting through his groin. Shortly after, the cops got their prize. Zeng Aiyun finally confessed to killing Zhou Yuheng. But beyond a forced confession, did investigators have any actual hard proof? To tie Zeng Aiyun to the homicide, the cops pointed to 3 specific pieces of forensic evidence. Number 1. Right on the wooden backrest of Zhou Yuheng's chair, they pulled one of Zeng Aiyun's fingerprints. Number 2. Down on the floor beneath that chair sat a partial shoe print. Forensics matched it to the tread on Zeng Aiyun's sneakers. Number 3. Detectives recovered a few loose fabric fibers stashed inside his pants pocket. One of those threads perfectly matched the brown rope left at the crime scene. But they could never completely prove it came from that exact piece of rope. Here is the thing. Lab 308, the actual crime scene, saw heavy daily foot traffic. Zeng Aiyun studied mechanical engineering too. He used that exact lab all the time for his own classes. Because of this, finding his print on a chair or his shoe mark on the floor could not guarantee he left them on the actual day of the killing. Even so, investigators still leaned completely on the timeline provided by Chen Huazhang to officially close the murder case. They painted Zeng Aiyun as a jealous mastermind who hated Zhou Yuheng over a bitter romantic rivalry. The working theory was that he lured and manipulated Chen Huazhang into helping pull off the crime. On May 10, 2004, the Xiangtan City Intermediate People's Court delivered their initial guilty verdict. Zeng Aiyun got the death penalty, while Chen Huazhang received life behind bars. Going into that very first trial, Zeng Aiyun actually felt pretty confident. He stated, "The cops might label me a killer, but beyond them, we still have prosecutors and real judges. The truth is going to come out." But the second that death sentence was read aloud, he entirely broke down. He lost it, screaming he was completely innocent right in the middle of court. After that, he immediately appealed. But by December 2005, the Hunan Provincial High Court voted unanimously to uphold the original verdict, handed down by the lower court. The massive turning point finally hit when the Supreme People's Court stepped in to review his execution order. This massive shift happened all thanks to the legal aid lawyer assigned to him, defense attorney Cheng Chi-Vien. Lawyer Cheng Chi-Vien started digging through the massive case files and noticed several glaring red flags. Number 1. Chen Huazhang swore that Zeng Aiyun showed up to the scene around 10 p.m. on the night of the killing and made his move around 10:15. He claimed he knew the exact time because there was a wall clock right there. But the cell phone data, checking Zeng Aiyun's phone records, we see he took a call from an old classmate at 10:17 p.m. How could he possibly pull off a murder in just 2 minutes? Right in the middle of a brutal killing, there is no way he'd be calm enough to even think about picking up the phone. Second, according to the files, Zeng Aiyun first confessed the murder weapon was a brown rope, roughly 5 or 6 inches long. That's about 15 to 20 centimeters. But the actual brown rope the cops found, the one stashed in Chen Huazhang's drawer, was over 5.6 meters long as an engineering student. Even a difference of a few centimeters would jump out at him. How could he mistake a 5-meter rope for a tiny scrap of just 15 centimeters? Later, under heavy police pressure, Zeng Aiyun changed his story, saying, "Oh, I guess that rope was over 5 meters. Third, all the murder tools. The brown rope, the cup used to mix the sedatives, the toilet paper covered in drugs, the medical records and the actual prescription for the sedatives plus Zhou Yuheng's cell phone, were all found. Hidden right inside Chen Huazhang's desk drawer. Any way you slice it, Chen looked like the real prime suspect. Chen Huazhang swore that while Zeng Aiyun was doing the killing, he was just chilling at his desk, reading. If Zeng Aiyun and Chen Huazhang had actually plotted this murder together in advance, they would have split up the dirty work as a team. Right when the killing happened, Chen Huazhang was supposedly the accomplice. How could he just sit there reading? As for Licia, after her release, she called the cops over and over, begging to take back her original statement. She said she couldn't let the police frame an innocent guy. Quote, "That night, I was honestly right by Zeng Aiyun's side the whole night." End quote. Thanks to an aggressive defense from lawyer Zhou Yuheng. The Supreme Court stepped in, handing down an order to throw out the death penalty entirely. It overturned the Hunan High Court's ruling and kicked the entire case back down for a retrial. Their reasoning? The murder charge against Zeng Aiyun was based on shaky facts and weak evidence. Finally, after 4 brutal years of waiting, on May 21, 2015, the People's Court, the Intermediate Court of Xiangtan, formally declared Zeng Aiyun innocent. He walked free right out of that courtroom. By then, Zeng Aiyun had been locked in a cell for 4,284 days. That is, nearly 12 prime years of his life. Totally wasted behind bars. One huge detail you need to know: that life sentence handed down for Chen Huazhang was fully upheld, which means in the end, the legal system officially ruled that this entire killing was planned and executed solely by Chen Huazhang. I am pretty sure by now. You all know deep down exactly who the real killer is. On the night of the murder, Chen Huazhang lured the victim Zhou Yuheng into Lab 308. Once those sleeping pills kicked in, he used that brown rope to brutally strangle him. Then he grabbed Zhou's phone and shot off a fake text to Zeng Aiyun and Li Xia. At the exact same time, he texted Zhou's roommate saying he was staying out. But why on earth did Chen Huazhang want Zhou dead? The two of them had zero bad blood. Did Chen Huazhang also have a crush on Li Xia and want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by taking out his rivals? Well, Chen's diary held a darker truth. Chen Huazhang and the victim were actually grad students working under the exact same advising professor. Actually, it was Chen who first introduced Zhou Yuheng to his own academic advisor. What Chen never saw coming was that once Zhou joined the program, he totally blew past him academically. And the professor clearly played favorites with Zhou. This hard reality drove Chen insane with toxic jealousy. He even wrote this entry right in his private diary. The professor said, "My drive doesn't even come close to Zhou's." Hearing him say that left me in a bitter, crushing agony. I am the idiot who brought in a junior colleague that is impossible to deal with. Man makes plans, God laughs. Or maybe I just never thought things through from the start. Then, on May 19, 2002, Chen wrote again, documenting a deeply calculated crime in his diary, plotted out with sick, twisted precision. Hiding the truth is never as effective as a clever distraction. We all have our twisted reasons for the things we do. There's a razor-thin line between love and hate. And just like that, the dark seeds of murder quietly took root. They sprouted right inside Chen Huazhang's mind, just like he wrote in his diary. Running away is nothing compared to the ultimate trick, pinning the blame on someone else. And Tang Ai Van, the poor guy who unwittingly got dragged right into Chao Dukang's messy love triangle, became the perfect scapegoat, even though both Chao Dukang and Tang Ai Van had deep feelings for Li Ha. They were absolute gentlemen about the whole thing. There was never a single bitter word exchanged between them. Honestly, you couldn't even call this tragedy a standard crime of passion. It was just a jealous male student. Consumed by toxic resentment for his junior, he exploited their love triangle for a twisted game. Yet, his sick setup actually worked. The local detectives over in Xiangtan City, the investigators running the homicide case back then, totally ignored his solid alibi. They tossed out a mountain of evidence, stubbornly pegging Zeng Aiyun as the cold-blooded killer. But Chen Huazhang didn't walk away clean either. And the woman right at the center of the mess, Li Ha, she was locked up for 6 months after the murder. The university expelled her, wiped her academic records dry, and ruined her shot at a master's degree. She eventually fled south for work. Rumor is she's married now, and for over 10 years, Li Ha hasn't shown her face at a single class reunion. When Zeng Aiyun finally walked free from that prison cell, he wrote a heartfelt letter to Li Ha. It read, "It has been over 10 years. We were both dragged into the abyss back then. Those were endless, agonizing days, filled with so much raw suffering. Over the past dozen years, you went from being an innocent grad student, wrongly accused, to a convicted criminal despised by everyone. You were unfairly branded as a terrible woman, completely condemned by society. You lost your education, you lost your career, and all your dreams. You lost what should have been a beautiful life. And the worst part is, you lost your faith in humanity. The crushing humiliation, the sheer despair, the complete helplessness and pain you have had to endure. Just how deep it all went, an ordinary person could never even begin to imagine it." At the end of the letter, Zeng Aiyun wrote that he sincerely apologized from the bottom of his heart. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He certainly didn't expect her to let go of her bitter resentment. He only prayed that her heavy heart could find a little bit of peace. Just a little bit of calm. After finally returning to his hometown, Zeng Aiyun made it crystal clear he definitely wasn't going back to grad school. The guy was already 38 years old. Everything he studied back then was long gone. He figured he might just shadow his uncle and do some small-time trading. In December 2015, the Xiangtan Intermediate People's Court ordered state compensation. They officially awarded Zeng Aiyun 1.27 million yuan. That's roughly 4.4 billion Vietnamese dong. More than a decade of false imprisonment had permanently smashed the trajectory of their lives. Everyone involved was changed forever, now that the brutal storm has finally passed. Where are they now? Well, Zeng Aiyun returned to his hometown over in Shandong in his late 30s. Carrying deep emotional scars that will never fully heal, he decided to take the compensation money and build a solid house. He did it for his elderly mother, the brave woman who spent 12 grueling years fighting for criminal justice. For her timid son, that old, ambitious academic dream, it was dead and buried. Today, Zeng Aiyun chooses to live a very quiet, completely secluded life. He tends to his fields in total peace and helps his relatives run their small local business. He stays completely out of the media spotlight, living far away from the vicious gossip and the public eye. The woman at the center of the nightmare, Li Ha, also chose to run from her past. The sheer trauma of being wrongfully detained, getting expelled, and surviving the public's vicious attacks left an unimaginably massive psychological scar. She completely cut all ties with her old life. She changed her phone number and totally vanished from all those Xiangtan University social groups. Rumor is she quietly got married, started over down in a remote southern province, and permanently buried those tragic true crime memories from 2003. And as for Chen Huazhang, the twisted mastermind who ruthlessly pushed his own classmates straight into the abyss, he's currently serving a life sentence behind bars. The appeal courts upheld the guilty verdict without granting a single shred of leniency. He has zero chance of beating this verdict on appeal. His sentence will drag out until his very last breath behind bars. Blinded by envy, Chen Huazhang did more than wreck the lives of 3 innocent victims. He threw away his own future too. The entire second half of his life will likely be spent rotting away in a cell. This proves jealousy doesn't just drive someone to commit murder. It rots the killer from the inside out. This whole case stands as a grim reminder of toxic envy and the massive cracks in our justice system. What started as a messy love triangle spiraled into total chaos. It took a life, locked an innocent man in prison for almost 12 years, and permanently scarred the families who were left behind. The bitter resentment boiling inside Chen Huazhang didn't just take him down. It pulled so many others into a pitch-black nightmare. We have to keep our darkest impulses in check, because unchecked anger can quickly plant the seeds for absolute disaster. And that wraps up our true crime coverage for today. Catch you all in the next video. Stay safe out there.